Let's talk personal savings. Do you deliberate every month exactly how much you should be transferring across to your savings account? Do you leave it and think, I'll just do it next month and then never get around to it? What we should save in the UK in comparison to what we actually save is a big hike in percentage, and I thought we could explore this together. Don't worry if you don't have any savings and you're panicking. Tips for improving your savings are coming up in just a minute. The UK personal savings situation. In the UK, our personal savings rate has historically been lower. On average, we've seen rates hover between about 3 and 6% annually. However, during the 2020 lockdown, our savings rate experienced a surprising surge, reaching an impressive 25 to 33.8%. But is that enough? And more importantly, has this trend continued? It's obviously exactly how people could save back then, because apart from home improvements and food, there wasn't really anything to spend your money on. But as time went by and the world opened up again, as you can imagine, that figure has slid all the way back down again. The ideal saving rate. Financial experts generally recommend saving between 15 and 20% of our wages to become more financially secure. But how do we know what's right for us, considering our individual financial goals, income, and expenses? That's where personal finance calculators come in handy. These tools can help you determine the ideal savings rate for your unique situation. If you haven't tried one of these calculators yet, I highly recommend giving it a go. Be honest though, or you're only cheating yourself. Another tried and trusted saving guide is a 50-30-20 rule, which can help you manage your finances and build a healthy savings habit. So you've got 50% for essential items, 20% for savings, and 30% for lifestyle choices. So for example, if you earn £2,000 a month, you'd allocate £1,000 for essentials, £400 for savings, and £600 for lifestyle choices like dining out and shopping. Now, the beauty of this rule is its simplicity. No need to divide your spending into numerous categories. Just follow the rule and you'll have a rough guide to sensible spending and saving. What's considered essential varies from person to person. So for some, the gym, contact lenses, a mobile phone contract might be a necessity, while others might see these as optional extras. The key is to allocate no more than 50% of your income to essentials and find ways to economise in other areas if need be. Experts agree that building up a buffer of savings for cash flow problems or unexpected events is crucial. To cover a temporary cash flow issue, you may need a couple of weeks' pay, and while for emergencies such as job loss, it's recommended to have a minimum of 3 months' pay in reserve. And don't forget, paying off credit card debt should take priority over saving, given the high interest rates on credit cards. The remaining 30% of your budget includes expenses that aren't essential, so things like gym fees or streaming services, meals out or concerts. Your budgeting depends on what you consider essential and what you can live without. Prioritise essentials first and then focus on saving, and finally use that remaining 30% to support the lifestyle that you want. The importance of an emergency fund. Now, before we jump into tips for improving your savings, let's talk about an emergency fund. This fund is a stash of money set aside to cover unexpected expenses like car repairs, medical bills, or sudden job loss. Most financial experts recommend having 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in your emergency fund. Trust me, having this financial safety net can be a real lifesaver. I'm speaking from experience because we've just had to shell out £3,500 on a routine operation for my little boy. The waitlist on the NHS was at least a year. He became really unwell, so for the first time ever we had to go private. Now, without that safety net, we wouldn't have been able to do it, so I can't stress the importance of this enough. My personal savings journey. Now, let me share my own experience with you. I feel like I've been all over the place, to be completely frank with you. In my 30s, I managed to save. I paid half for a wedding. I bought my eldest boy all the baby stuff that he needed. And my 40s hasn't been as easy. We had a second little boy and I lost my well-paid job mid-pandemic. So it feels like the brakes have been on a bit with my savings. This is the reality of life though. Sometimes the chips are up and sometimes they're down. But if you save along the way, even if it's not masses, you can see that pot gradually rise. I'll get into how to get the most out of the savings in a minute. Tips for improving your savings. So, how can you get started on your own savings journey? Here are a few tips that have helped me along the way. Set clear financial goals. Know what you're saving for, whether it's an emergency fund, a down payment on a house, or a dream holiday. It might sound daft, but get some photos or pictures and stick them on the fridge. I have moments where I go into a bit of an online shopping rabbit hole and then I march myself into the kitchen, look at the fridge, and then just empty my basket. I would love to retire and live in Spain, so there's a photo of that just to remind me not to spend. Having something physical to look at stops me spending. Create a budget. Track your income and expenses and see where you can make cutbacks or adjustments. Now, this might mean cutting down on takeaway coffees or finding more affordable alternatives for your hobbies. I stand by my theory that you can still live the life you want, but just by being a little bit more savvy. So I get a free coffee from my Vitality app. I've got a half-price gym membership at 13 quid. And instead of rolling around the aisles of Zara, I buy clothes from Vinted and I treble my club card vouchers so that we can have a free family meal at Pizza Express every now and again. It keeps me on the right track and I don't feel like I'm missing out. On this same note, when you're staring at the figures in black and white, is there anything that you're overspending on that's glaringly obvious? If you're honest with the figures and there's something that needs to be cut back, that extra portion of cash can go straight into your savings pot. Watching it rise will feel very satisfying. Prioritise your debt. If you have high interest debt, focus on paying it off as quickly as possible. This will free up more money for when you save in the long run, especially credit cards. Most credit card APR is peaking over 20%, so credit card companies are cashing in on your hard-earned cash. Try spending less, freelancing to earn more, and switch to a 0% interest rate so you can really hack away at that debt. On the same note, and this may sound like a fairly obvious tip, but only buy what you can afford. I've seen too many people recently who've got themselves into a financial pickle from using buy now, pay later facilities. This is just going to set you back when it comes to saving your money. Start small and build up. Increase your savings gradually, even if it's just by 1% every month. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a healthy savings account. Remember, my journey hasn't been consistent, so it's a case of making adjustments where you can. Automate your savings. Now, this is a great way without having to lift a finger, and also a good way of not talking yourself out of it too. Set up a direct debit to your savings account to make it a no-brainer. This will ensure that you're saving consistently without even thinking about it. Also, it may help to have a savings account that you can't touch, so you can't dip into it. Seek professional advice. If you're struggling to manage your finances or don't know where to start, consider speaking with a financial advisor. They can help you develop a personalised plan tailored to your unique circumstances. If you've just listened to those tips and you're still shouting, "I have no money to save," then it might be worth looking into trying to raise some more cash to put aside by starting a side hustle. I want you to know that I know how this feels, and I've got about 3 side hustles on the go, and I'm also midway through setting up a 4th. Get a piece of paper and write down everything you're good at. Google side hustles that involve and then put your skills in and see what pops up. There's also a good podcast called Side Hustle School that you can listen to for a bit of inspiration. Get your fingers in loads of pies. The power of compound interest. Now, what on earth is this? Well, it's when the interest that you earn on your savings also earns interest, causing your money to grow over time. The earlier you start saving and the longer you let your money grow, the more significant the impact of compound interest will be. It's like a snowball effect that can help build wealth and reach your financial goals faster. Let's take a look at an example. You've got £1,000 to invest at a fixed interest rate of 10% a year. With simple interest, you'll earn £100 every year, but with compound interest, the interest is calculated on the closing balance at the end of the previous year. So, after 10 years, the simple interest account will have £2,000, while the compound interest account will have £2,594. When calculating compound interest, consider these key variables: principal, interest rate, duration, and frequency of compounding. And it's important to understand these terms. Annual percentage rate, APR, you'll have heard that with credit cards, annual equivalent rate, which is AER, and annual percentage yield, APY. For investments, most are based on compound interest. Borrowings like personal loans and car loans often use simple interest, while credit cards and student loans use compound interest. Mortgages can be based on simple or compound interest. It just depends on the type. To ensure you're not overpaying for borrowings, choose simple interest loans. Look for low interest rate options, find flexible loans, and pay down more expensive debt first. To boost your investments, maximise your investment period, use tax wrappers like ISAs and SIPPs, and reinvest dividends or income. Keep in mind that the impact of compounding on fees can significantly affect your portfolio's value, so choose the best trading platform for your circumstances. Now you know how much saving experts say you should have, you might be looking at your savings account balance and wondering how to increase it. Don't worry, most people I know are nowhere near these saving numbers, and that's why I made this video where I explained 13 things I no longer buy, and it helped me save hundreds. So click over here and I'll see you there.